All right, welcome everybody to Floatcast by Faded Floater. I'm your host Bryan, here with my co-host and fellow founder of Faded Floater, Caleb, and we are coming to you today from Float HQ. Really excited to be here.
Hey, I have been pumped all week for this, Bryan. It's I feel like this first Floatcast is that culmination of the week that we all look forward to. Like, when is that moment that you can put everything aside, focus on what you enjoy most, and embrace the lifestyle of Faded Floater?
Awesome. Yeah, we are really excited to be here. So, inaugural episode, episode 1 of the Floatcast. It's been kind of one of those things that we've been working on, I think, for a couple months now, really trying to figure out how we would put this together and how we do it. So really excited to see it, to your point, come to fruition here, and excited to get into some topics that I think our audience will really enjoy. So yeah, let's jump right into it, man. I think one of the things that I think a lot of our audience is curious to know is, what is Faded Floater?
It's funny because literally everywhere I go with a hat on, carrying a koozie, wearing a T-shirt, whatever it is, everyone always stops and asks me, like, what the hell is that? Like, Faded Float, like, what does that mean? And the reality is that it's a lifestyle, and it's a brand that we're evolving to embrace a lifestyle. And that lifestyle, I think more importantly, you have the ability to kind of interpret as you need what faded means to you. When I look at faded for some people, they're going to look at it and it's like, hey, we're in Vegas, weed's perfectly legal. They might be getting a little faded, on the herbal stuff. In our case, we were faded right here in the corner of the pool, having some beers. But then also I look at, we all work every day, and most of us not working for ourselves.
Sure.
And you grind all week to get to the weekend.
Sure.
And a lot of times you want to let that week fade away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Wednesday sucked. Thank God it's Friday. We're gonna let that fade away.
Right.
And hopefully we can get some float in as well, especially now the weather's turning.
I was going to say it's about to be that time of year, officially float season here coming up so soon. So really looking forward to it. But talk a little bit about, your experience, right? Faded Floater, the floater lifestyle, the lifestyle brand. What are some highlights from your life that you would say have kind of stuck out? Whether it be, different types of experiences or floats or whatever it is, that are memorable, that kind of make you smile and really embrace the brand and the lifestyle that we're building here.
Yeah, it's funny. I spent a lot of weekends as a kid growing up. My parents didn't have any money growing up, and dad was a fireman, grandfather was a fireman, and there was a place at Buckeye Lake, this lake about 45 minutes outside of Columbus, and it called Fireman's Park. Everyone had campers out there, and they had some boat slips and all this stuff, and grew up going out there and sitting around the campfire at night. And on that lake, it's a small lake. It's like 7-8 miles long, something like that. Right. There's 13 bars on this lake, a couple sandbars, and you look at the song Redneck Yacht Club.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
Craig Morgan.
My gosh.
Great jam.
Epitome of Buckeye Lake.
Okay.
It's fantastic. And every bar's got live music and all this stuff. But I remember being a kid, sitting around the campfire at night, maybe 4th of July, we're shooting off fireworks, doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you could hear the music from the bars across the lake.
Okay.
I remember asking my dad, like, what is that? And he's like, you'll find out soon enough.
The old, we'll tell you when you're older.
We'll tell you when you're older. Yeah. And little did I know the shenanigans were actually going on. But I did get older, and I got to find out, right?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, the first like real floating, my grandparents had a pontoon boat that I vaguely remember.
Okay.
Because they used to tow it back and forth from Florida for the summer up there. But my dad, once he could scrap a couple bucks together, he bought this. Sorry, Dad. Really shitty boat, and we called it the Butterscotch Express because it was like this. It's kind of like a deck boat, but my dad knew that it was just like a turd. It was a total floating turd, but he always let us know, like, because he embraced it. He's like, I know this thing. Thank God this thing is still floating.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, you know what? End of the day, we're on the water. and we're floating. And that was what was most important, was
Yeah.
we still got to we got to do everything the fancy boats did, right?
Right.
We still went tubing, we still went to the sandbar, we still listened to music, we still stopped at one of the restaurants and would listen to live music on a Saturday afternoon while we had
Yeah.
lunch.
Right.
You know, and stuff like that.
So really floating for you was just from the beginning, right? From truly like little kid, youth, childhood.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I was floating in the womb, you know, and it came out, and then I'm floating on a boat at Buckeye Lake.
That's okay. Well, I hadn't quite. That's the one floating that I hadn't actually considered, and now that I have that in my head, I'm good
I mean,
with.
if you think
I
about it,
think
we're all born floaters.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We can bury that. Anyway. All right. So Buckeye Lake. You're a kid. You got older.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like getting older? Like, what were some of those moments maybe relative, whether before you could technically or after? What memories from those days stick out?
I've been in sales my whole life, so you know,
Yeah.
call it a challenge if you
Okay.
will. You know,
Sure.
I was going to close this deal, right? And so these were all good buddies of mine. There
Yeah.
was 4 of us that flew out from Vegas, and then there was there was one that flew up from North Carolina,
Okay.
and then there was another 6 guys from Columbus that all met up with us at Buckeye Lake. Oh, no, one from Cleveland too.
Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I was convincing people from all different areas.
So a true like national effort here.
National effort.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a
Yeah.
national sales campaign, you know. I executed it brilliantly, by the way. And so we get everyone out to Buckeye Lake, get we'll call it an armada of boats.
Okay.
In this case, it's 2 pontoons.
2 pontoons in the Armada. Okay.
And
Right.
you know, so we're cruising around the lake, hitting all these bars all day and everything. And this one guy, Mike, that flew in from Vegas, he's a Black Hawk helicopter pilot.
Okay.
Has some crazy videos
Yeah, I bet.
of doing some wild shit, right? And every time we pulled out of a no wake zone and started to get up on plane with the boat, he would stand on the front of the pontoon boat and he'd like put his arm up in the air like he's George Washington crossing the Delaware, and he's like ramming speed. Well, it turned into this big joke throughout the day, but we didn't
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah.
It was going to turn into a reality.
Oh shit. Okay.
And so we go to this bar. We pull in with our Armada, park in the marina, if you will, the dock area, and get out live music. Everyone's floating. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's partying. And Mike and this one other guy, we'll call him John for privacy because he's maybe implicated later. So they take off on their boat with a couple of the Corona promo models.
Where were okay, so where did they come from?
So they were at the bar, you know, passing out free
Okay.
beers and
All
stuff
right.
like that as
Okay.
promotion.
Okay.
And
so the Black Hawk helicopter pilot
yes,
and the Corona models
yes,
all get on a boat with John.
yes,
Okay. Awesome. All right.
yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like, of course, like the guy that, you know, the military guy,
right.
you know, he comes in and takes the models out of the damn bar. No surprise, but I mean, you know, he's earned it.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that more importantly. So they disappear. In the meantime, there's the end of the story. Like there's pure chaos that ensues. So we're at the bar hanging out, and my one buddy Mike throws his beer can on the ground and stomps on it. And it's a dive bar.
Different mic.
Yeah, different mic.
Okay.
Different mic.
Gotcha,
There's 2
gotcha.
mics on
Okay.
this trip. It's a good point.
Yeah.
So we'll call him Chevins.
Okay.
That's his nickname from high school.
Okay.
So Chevins throws his beer can down, stomps on the beer can. This bouncer comes, and Mike's kind of a wiry guy, but he's like sneaky strong.
Yeah.
Bouncer comes, grabs him, yanks him, throws him out of the bar. I come walking up, and I'm like, well, like money can solve a lot of problems, and tipping a bouncer typically will take care of, you know, whatever,
Right.
right?
And being from Vegas, I mean, money is it's a language out here.
Pay to play, right?
Right.
And so I walk up, I pull my wallet out, I start to pull out $100 to tip this bouncer to get my buddy back in. And my other buddy that's from Columbus grabs my hand on my wallet, and he's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to tip the bouncer to get Chevins back in. He's like, dude, we're at Buckeye Lake. You don't need to give him $100. Give him 20. And I'm like,
That's awesome.
fair enough. So give the guy $20. Chevins gets back in. We keep partying and stuff. And these bouncers don't know how many of us are at this bar because everyone is kind of spread out
Right.
throughout the bar at this point.
Nor do they realize you have an Armada.
Especially the Armada.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's not a sailing ship type Armada, you know, from back in the day, but you know.
Right.
as we're sitting there partying and carrying on, I'm looking over, and there's this girl that she's puking her guts out in the water, like leaning over the rope rail kind of thing and puking. And I look at my one buddy that came from Vegas. I'm like, hey, if I get in a fight, you got my back? And he's kind of like, I mean, I don't really want to, but yeah, of course. I'm like, all right, great. I walk straight over to the bouncer that took my $20 to let my buddy back in. And I look at him and I go, hey, man, I want my $20 back. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I go, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I go, I want my 20 back now. And he goes, why? I go, well, she's puking in the lake. I go, you kicked my buddy out for stepping on a beer can. I go, you need to call her an ambulance and you need to give me my $20 back. So he gets mad. He pretty much grabs me. My other buddy, he's like, great, here we go. Like, so now there's 2 bouncers and 2 of us, and they're hauling us out. And it was almost like someone put out like the bat signal.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's because there's more, right? There's like 9 others, right? You said
there's 9
of you, right?
There's still 9 other, 11 on the trip. There's still 9 more guys.
So they're about to be in for a little bit of a
rude awakening,
wake up call.
So the next thing you know, here's 9 of us surrounding these 2 bouncers, and these bouncers are like, "Oh no, whoops, didn't mean for this to happen." And so we a little bit of skirmish happens and whatnot. Nothing crazy.
Right.
One guy did almost get thrown into the lake, but he hit the docking sign and it saved him from falling off the dock. And so we all get on this pontoon boat. Well, the problem is you get 9 dudes on a pontoon boat, and it's good for 11 people in weight, but that 11 people consist of like women and children, right?
Yeah, right. Probably not 9.
Not 9 full
right.
grown men. So
Sure.
the pontoons are underwater, and like this is over 10 years ago. Cell phone coverage was very spotty at Buckeye Lake, so no one can get a hold of Mike. Next thing you know, here comes Mike on the second half of our armada, cruising into the marina, and he's like, "Guys, we gotta go now." And we're like, "Yeah, no shit, we gotta go now. We're getting kicked out of this bar. I think the police got called on us." He goes, "Called on you guys?" He goes, "I think they got called on us." And we're like, "Mike, what in the world is going on?" He goes, "Don't worry about it. So we split up. We hop on these boats, and they're like, "We need to go ramming speed back across the lake and get off the water."
There is nothing more comforting than having someone come in and say, "Go, go, go. I think the cops are coming." Right?
Yeah. So we did not know his half of the story, so we just assumed like our skirmish was known around the lake at this point.
Yeah.
So
with no cell phone coverage.
With no cell phone.
Yeah.
So we go flying across the lake. We pull into Fireman's Park, and we dock immediately. We hop off the boat. I kid you not. We no more clip the last rope tie into the dock post, and we see 2 police boats going Mach 1 across the lake with their lights on, flying.
And this is like late, right? This is like
1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so we continue drinking, and finally we're like, "Mike, like, what the hell happened?" He goes, "Well, ramming speed got the best of us." And we're like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "So I leave the bar with John, the boat driver, and the 2 Corona models." He's like, "I'm thinking like we're gonna, make something happen out there on the water. They're going to the next bar with these girls, and there's a boat in the middle of the lake with no lights on."
Yeah, which is a no-no.
Big no-no.
Right.
Now, mind you, you're supposed to be going no wake at night, so they were also doing a no-no because they were going ramming speed. Well, at ramming speed, they literally rammed into this other boat.
Jesus.
And the pontoon went up on top of the back of the other boat, and the boats got locked together.
Oh, man.
So Black Hawk helicopter pilot is like, "I'm going to unlodge these boats." So as he's unlodging these boats, the Corona girls get scared. They hop off of the boat that they were on with Mike, and they get on this other randoms boat in the middle of the lake with no lights on.
Yeah.
It was like an angel from God just dropped these models on these other guys' laps.
Sure, right, yeah.
Angel being the Black Hawk helicopter pilot.
Mike, yeah, ramming speed.
So they unlodged the boat, and that's when Mike came back to pick us up back at the bar. In the midst of all this, evidently, the people that he ran into were smart enough to take a photo of the boat license on the side of the boat. I would have never thought to do that.
The license plate?
Yeah.
Essentially for boats.
Essentially the license plate for boats, right?
Yeah,
It's that
right.
decal that goes down the side of it.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah, because I'm sure there's probably going to be insurance and all sorts of other shit
exactly.
after the fact, right?
So those are the people that called the police. The bar didn't call the police on us for the fight. The police were called because of the boat accident in the middle of the lake. So that's why Mike was in such a hurry to get back to
Right.
Fireman's Park.
Yeah.
So as we're debriefing on all this, Captain John actually lives on the lake. He takes his boat back to his house once the dust has settled, if you will, goes to bed. The next morning, knock at the door.
Oh, shit.
Now, mind you, he wakes up. Obviously, things are a little cloudy, and the police are there, and they're like, hey, Captain John, did you have a good night last night? He's like, I was at home in bed. Don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, really? And they're like, what time did you get home? And he's like, I didn't leave. And they're like, really? Because your boat license plate is implicated in an accident, and the entire front left corner of your boat seems to tell the same story. And he goes, so we'll just cut to the chase. Like,
Yeah, right.
Where was your boat last night? And he's like, he goes, it never left my dock. And they go, well, why don't you walk out here with us? They walk out there, and they go, were you drinking last night? This is before he actually walks up to the boat, and he's like, no, wasn't drinking at all, not at all. He walks up, and there's like 42 empty beer cans
In the boat.
in the boat, all over the floor of the boat. And John looks at the police. He goes, how'd those get there? Maintaining innocence. So basically, I don't know the rule of law and things like that, but he did get ticketed for something.
Yeah.
But they couldn't actually directly ticket him. And for those of you legal beagles out there, we are far past the statute of limitations. And he did get penalized, and he got in trouble. And I think he got in more trouble with his wife than he did with
sure. Nobody
with
got
the
hurt.
police.
Nobody got
hurt.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was all in good fun, we'll call it. But that was a serious float scene.
That's crazy. I think the best part is just like, because I feel like every good story that takes place between the hours of 10 and 3 a.m. I feel like has just that one friend in the group that just disappears. I think every group of people, for whatever reason, when it gets going, like there's always that one or two people that just end up like
Somebody's gonna be
disappearing, and then they pop back up randomly at the end, and you just have no idea what the hell.
It's like Doug,
what they
in The
did.
Hangover.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Right. Everyone's got a Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's a Black Hawk helicopter pilot or, a relative, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Everyone's
I
got a
agree.
Doug.
But yeah, that was one of those things. I mean, I had a lot of really innocent floating years at Buckeye Lake, and I had some, Armada type years, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's what's great, and that's the best part about floating, right? Is like it's whatever you make of it, right? Like there's no set script that you have to follow. It generally writes its own story.
It does write its own story, and it's funny because I think that sometimes people they go out with a certain mission of, oh, tonight we're gonna get so drunk, or we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But to me, I think the greatest nights and greatest moments and greatest conversations are the ones that actually happen just very organically and naturally.
Yes.
Where all of a sudden you wake up the next day and you're like, what in the, how, what, how, why, huh?
Yeah. Could have never planned it, right? And that's the best part, right? We think back to like even just some of the days we have floating here in the pool. It's like it's just the crowds that come through. People come through. People leave. People don't. Like they're not planned, right? They're just kind of organic and they happen naturally. And I think there's a lot to be said about that.
My wife comes home and all of a sudden it's an organic house party. And she's like, "What did I just got off a nice hike." And you two knuckleheads have 15 people floating in the pool, and
But I think it just speaks to the lifestyle and the interest and the relatability it has to a lot of people, right? Like, I mean, what else are you gonna do on a nice day,
right?
I mean, float.
You got to embrace the float at the end of the day. So a lot of different ways to do it, and sometimes, no lie, I've been out here. It's a book float day, and other days it's a cocktail float day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what can the listeners expect to hear from the Floatcast? So obviously understanding a little bit about what Faded Floater is, how it kind of came to be. What can everyone expect what can everyone expect out of this show?
So, at the end of the day, this show, it's going to be, one, we hope fun and fresh. Two, highly engaging with people from all different walks of life to really understand what makes them tick and what gets them exciting about floating. And, kind of their journey. Because a lot of people, we look at the Godfather, Alcimedes, the founder of buoyancy,
Yes,
and
sir.
things like that.
Yes.
He's the one that really got this party started, 2,000 years ago or whatever it was. and here we are now. We got, a lot of friends and family and stuff that are world-class floaters. And we're going to find out a little about what they do in business, what they do with their family, and what they do for fun.
Right. So really embodying the great friends, great conversations, maybe some good stories along the way.
Yeah, and hopefully some of these casts we're going to be casting, mid-float day, some of that action to embody what could really transpire during a strong float day.
Well, there you have it. That's episode 1, the inaugural Floatcast here by Faded Floater. I'm Bryan. This is Caleb from Float HQ. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Keep floating.